Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
This is awesome! This is awesome!
Hello and welcome once again to Cheap Shot Entertainment. I finally got around to watching Hell in a Cell from the 25th of October 2020. It is currently the 3rd of November, but I've managed to finally watch it. My life is very busy at the moment with things going off. Anyway, Hell in a Cell, really good pay-per-view. I'd suggest you go and watch it. Even the AEW fanboys and girls, because you know it's 2020, I have to be non-binary with these things. Anyway, it's at the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida, and we are in the midst of the Thunderdome. I quite like the Thunderdome, you know, it brings the fans in. There's always some kind of douchebag in the background taking the piss, but you know, that's fine. You know, they're insignificant and they find their way onto television to make an idiot of themselves, and that's their prerogative, you know. But it doesn't take away from how good this pay-per-view actually was, and it may actually be my favourite non-WrestleMania pay-per-view of the year. It really was that damn good. So we go straight into this one with a Universal Championship match. It is a Hell in a Cell match with I Quit rules, and it is Roman Reigns, the current reigning, defending Universal Champion, along with his what do they call him? Manager? He's not a manager, he's called something else. It's something really cool. Paul Heyman. And he's going against Jey Uso for the second time in 2 months. A really good match last month, actually, that these two had at Night of Champions, I believe. Yeah, Jey Uso puts it on here as well, and in a masterclass of storytelling, along with his real-life cousin, Roman Reigns, did just that. I mean, it was great. So basically, the other stipulation to this match was that if Roman Reigns wins, Jey and Jimmy Uso would kneel down to Roman Reigns and call Roman the Tribal Chief, which has been a thing that's been going on for quite some time since Roman Reigns came back as heel. And I never thought I'd say this, but I really like Roman Reigns at the moment. Don't tell anybody, because it might ruin my street cred. Roman Reigns wins this one. It was absolutely brutal. They beat each other, they battered each other, they hit each other with chairs, kendo sticks, they hit each other with chairs, they were bashing each other's faces off the side of the steel of the Hell in a Cell cage, and it looked like pure animosity that only family members could have, and it was just fitting that it was coloured red, because it's the kind of animosity that most families have over a game of Monopoly at Christmas in the UK. Anyway, it would be Roman Reigns that would win this one after beating down Jey so bad and the cage door was open. Jimmy would come down and protect his brother from being the victim of a steel stair shot. There we go, got it out. Steel stair shot, and Roman Reigns would look like he would be breaking down. And you know, he'd shake the hand of Jimmy. He'd give him like a brotherly hand thing. Yeah, that. Yeah, I can't really do it on myself, but you know, something along those lines. I'm gonna stop now. Yeah, it looked like it's breaking down, and all of a sudden, snap! Remember Mark Henry from 2013? Yeah, just like that, like the Hall of Pain, maybe. Yeah, got him in a triangle choke, reverse triangle choke. Jimmy would pretty much pass out. Jey Uso would say "I quit" in order to save his brother, and Roman Reigns would be recognised as the tribal chief by said Usos. Following on from this, Jey Uso actually turned heel and made the transformation complete on the following SmackDown. Really good SmackDown is getting now, even with the draft picks and stuff like that, it's just getting really good again. I've heard incidentally that Daniel Bryan is on the creative team, which is always a good thing in my book. Anyway, like I say, masterpiece of storytelling. Roman Reigns celebrates with his title. He walks up the ramp. Afa and Sika, the original Islanders, the Wild Samoans, whatever you want to call them, they put a wreath around Roman's neck, signifying that he is the king of the island. He is the tribal chief. He is the chosen one, and that story was great. The match was great. I'm going to give this a very rare 5 out of 5 cheap shots because it was that good, and it was really, you know, it was. If you watch a match, watch this one. Really good. This one beat the WWE Championship match, and only ever so slightly beating the women's, the SmackDown Women's Championship match, which was also contended in a Hell in a Cell. Now, there's only certain championships on here, and the filler is not that great. And we're going on to that now. It is Elias. Not Elijah, because that's something completely different. Elias versus Jeff Hardy. Comes down singing about Jeff Hardy's demons with alcohol. You just give it up. We've been through that storyline with Sheamus. It's finished. It's over. Stop it, WWE. We don't need it anymore. Let's just concentrate on how good Jeff Hardy actually is at the age that he is, and he can still fly through the air like a 20-year-old. Anyway, Elias and Jeff Hardy, they would just beat the snot out of each other. It's not very good. It's not a very good technical wrestling match, but you can feel the animosity there. Still needs some build-up, I think. Elias would slide out of the ring, go for his trusty guitar. Jeff Hardy would take it off him, smack him over the head. Elias wins via disqualification. The match was okay, like I said, but the finish was poor. I guess it works well with the face-heel dynamic thing, but Jeff Hardy actually did something that was very heelish. And I'm going to give that 1.5 cheap shots out of 5. That's 1.5 in old school money. Now, more filler for the right to be called Mr. Money in the Bank. It is Otis with Tucker as Mr. Money in the Bank. The Money in the Bank contract in the briefcase that he won in the most unique way by climbing all the way to the top of the corporate tower for WWE. And he's going against The Miz with John Morrison. All 4 of these guys need to be higher up the card. I know people don't really get on with The Miz, but I mean, certainly John Morrison needs to be going for a title of some sort. Or, you know, Miz and Morrison need to have title shots as a tag team. We knew this was coming. Tucker hits Otis with the briefcase after John Morrison. He is caught with the briefcase and ejected from ringside. The referee is distracted. Tucker hits Otis with the briefcase. Miz capitalizes, pins Otis. Miz is now number 1 contender for whichever title he likes. He is Mr. Money in the Bank once again. Completely pointless. Completely pointless putting the Money in the Bank title, Money in the Bank briefcase with Otis if you weren't going to do anything with it. I mean, the best storyline, one of the best storylines from WrestleMania, from Money in the Bank, was Otis and Mandy Rose. Mandy Rose is now on Raw. Otis is on SmackDown with Tucker, and Tucker has now turned heel because he said, "You got all the women, you got all the limelight. Who was there for you all the time?" And it was just predictable. Crime time, anybody? Can't see this going any further than one match, and if it does, then it's going to die a death, and it just needs to die a death. And Otis needs to banish Tucker. Tucker needs to go to Raw or back down to NXT, because he's been nowhere throughout the whole of the year 2020 since they got called up. And I do think they got called up way too early as heavy machinery. But The Miz wins. He is your Money in the Bank briefcase holder. Certainly more likely to cash it in, but we've got two heel main event champions at the moment. And that is a precursor for the main event. It's going to fizzle out, and it's just bad. Two cheap shots out of 5 for that one. SmackDown Women's Championship is next. It is a Hell in a Cell match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Bayley is your champion, and she turned her back recently on her best friend Sasha Banks, but it would be Banks that would get the upper hand in this one and take the championship away from one of the longest reigning women's champions in history, Bayley. I really like heel Bayley. I thought this was going to go the opposite way. Sasha Banks is definitely a natural heel, but I suppose that was the thing, wasn't it? Bayley turned her back on her best friend, and Sasha Banks would naturally become the face. I don't see it working. I don't see her as a face, but damn, this match was good, and the storytelling was, and you can just tell how SmackDown is so much better than Raw at the moment, and it's just great. It's just a really great match, again, with the weapons, and they're beating each other, and they've got lots of kendo sticks out, and steel chairs and steel stairs, and raking each other off the side of the cage, and everything you can do reasonably inside a Hell in a Cell match, bar chucking people off of the top. These two women just beat the snot out of each other, and it was fun. And it, like I say, told a great story, and the outcome, in hindsight, was the best for everybody, because Bayley had no one else to beat apart from Sasha, and she didn't do it. So I hope it's not going to be another Sasha Charlotte Flair scenario where they're just going to swap the belt every week. But Sasha Banks would win with the bank statement, with the use of Bayley's trusty steel chair with the X signed on it. X marks the spot for Sasha's face, but in this case it was Bayley's face that was purely planted into the steel chair. And a well-placed foot, of course, made that possible. Bank statement, Sasha Banks wins, Bayley taps out. You have a new SmackDown Women's Champion. And again, brutal Hell in a Cell match, probably more brutal than the Universal Championship match, and both of these storylines were years in the making, so that made it more real, it made it more believable, it made it more fun, and it was just good. They were both really good, and I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 5 as well. Very rare, and 2 on one show. But we have more filler. The US Championship next. Bobby Lashley representing the Hurt Business, which may just be my new favourite stable. I really like the t-shirts as well. And he's going against Slapjack of Retribution. What a name, Slapjack. Sounds like someone's doing something they shouldn't be. Anyway, Bobby Lashley is the champion, the US champion. He won the title from, I forget his name now, UR Nation. What's his name? Can't remember. that's how much I remember him. But he's actually really good. And as soon as I remember, I will tell you. That's going to do my head in now. Anyway, he's a newly minted US champion. He's going against Slapjack. Slapjack never really had a chance because he's the almighty Bobby Lashley. For Lashley, for the win, I'm going to give this 1 cheap shot out of 5, and that is purely for the Her Business t-shirt. I've got to say, I like the t-shirt, so that is getting the 1 cheap shot because the match was shite, basically. Go on to the main event. Yes, a pay-per-view with only 6 matches in it. Hell in a Cell match for the WWE Championship. This one's been building up for several months, and I'm surprised it's gone this far, but I suppose it needed to, because Hell in a Cell is this month, and they've beaten the snot out of each other for at least 3 months. They had a normal match, they had an ambulance match, and now a Hell in a Cell match, a match that Randy Orton is an absolute veteran of, having been in most of them, the most besides Triple H and The Undertaker. And again, the animosity between these two just built up over a couple of months. It's not been built up over years, but it's been built up over a couple of months, and it was made really believable here. I've talked to a lot of people that said, Randy Orton shouldn't even really be in this match, but I mean, it's the WWE Championship, and Randy Orton's got pedigree, and he's been pedigreed many times for that championship. But he's looking at equaling Triple H's record of 14 WWE Championships. This match was really good. Not quite as good as the other 2 Hell in a Cell matches, but I mean, I was drained by the time I got to this one. So, I mean, the one thing that this one did that the other 2 didn't, and it's probably by design, most likely by design, we are talking wrestling here, was that they went up top. They went on top of the Hell in a Cell. Now, no one got thrown off the top, but as they were climbing down, Drew McIntyre did end up through the table, and that would be the turning point of this match, where Randy Orton would then just have to get Drew McIntyre back in the ring. Drew McIntyre was beaten black and blue by Randy Orton. Randy Orton just kept coming back like a snake that he is. He is just, he's phenomenal at the moment. He's reinvented himself without reinventing himself. He's still the same Randy Orton. He doesn't look any different. He doesn't act any different. But somehow there's difference there. And if Drew McIntyre was going to lose his championship, now was the time to do it in order for him to win it back in front of fans. And that is ultimately what I hope happens, because my heart sank for him at WrestleMania, having beaten Brock Lesnar in one of the biggest matches of his career. There was no one there to celebrate with. We didn't have the Thunderdome, we didn't have fans in the building. It was empty apart from the wrestlers, the camera crew and the commentators at WrestleMania. And although I loved this year's WrestleMania for that very reason, I've got to say, and the matches were outstanding because they were really pouring it on, he won the championship in front of no one. That's got to be gutting for him. He worked so hard to get back to where he was that that must have been absolutely gutting. So I'm hoping that this is all building up to another WrestleMania for Drew McIntyre, and being able to recapture that gold for the second time at WrestleMania next year, which I believe is WrestleMania 37, which hopefully I will be going to, because my trip has been transferred over from this year to next year. Yay! Orton goes to the top of the cell. McIntyre follows. McIntyre goes through the table, which we've already said. Champ is at the mercy of the Legend Killer, back in the ring. The Claymore misses at this point from the champion Drew McIntyre, and an RKO out of nowhere. I think I can get away with saying that these days. Hits and makes Orton the 14-time champion, equaling Triple H's record of 14. Obviously, I don't think there's any way that, although Randy Orton by comparison is still quite young, he could still do the 16. But I think while Ric Flair is still with us and not withered, as it were, he is going to continue to be the 16-time and the only 16-time world champion in wrestling history. 4.5 cheap shots out of 5. Like I say, not quite the same level of story. I've taken half a cheap shot off for the storytelling here. Storytelling was great, still very, very good, but only built up over a couple of months rather than several years, and that was the difference for me. Still very good. Glad Orton's the champion. Gutted for Drew McIntyre, but he got up at the end. He's had a really good run. He's been really strong as the WWE champion, which there's a danger for new champions to not get that strength of run for the first one. So it is all leading to Drew McIntyre recapturing that gold in a more significant way, with fans in the building and for a second time getting his revenge over Randy Orton after all the hurt that he's put him through over the last couple of months. That will be the ultimate payoff for me. Anyway, that is Hell in a Cell from 2020, and we finally managed to do the review of it. Really good pay-per-view. I would suggest anybody to go and watch this. Probably you've already watched it by the time this review comes out. Like I say, my life is very busy at the moment, but if you've watched this video and you do like it, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel of Cheap Shot Entertainment. We're trying to put as much wrestling on as possible, simply because there is no live wrestling at the moment apart from the big companies doing their thing. And if there is live wrestling on and you're thinking about going to watch it here in the UK, think about what's and why it's happening and whether you should actually be going, because in hindsight, wrestling is a contact sport. It's contact entertainment. You've got people touching each other and stuff like that, and it's always going to be like that, but it's not quite safe at the moment, and unless they're doing tests and stuff like the big companies are, you never know. So I encourage you to stay safe, keep together, well, not keep together because that's been discouraged, but stay safe, look after yourselves, and keep coming back here to Cheap Shot Entertainment. I've been your host Luke, you are the Cheap Shot Nation, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.